What's on, where and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio. Sport. The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Mako Rugby Roundup podcast. We find out who the fanatics are when it comes to all things rugby in the top of the south. I'm Chris Butler, and my co-host, Mr. Rugby himself, he sleeps and breathes it, dreams about it, Les Edwards. Welcome.
Greetings, Chris. Yeah, I do enjoy the game very much, love talking about it. Looking forward to the show.
On today's show, we're going to be talking college rugby, senior men's semi-finals coming up. Got a very special guest, Mako women's coach Mel Bosman, and we're also going to be talking the All Blacks versus Ireland second test and a Mako update. But before that, it's college rugby, and both our Nelson teams are on the road this weekend. And Nelson College, who are top of the table, are taking on Rangiora High, who are in 11th, and Waimea Combined, who are 12th, are taking on Roncalli Oraki Combined, who are last. So hopefully Waimea might be thinking they might grab a win then.
Yeah, I would think that they can have a good bus trip home after this game. They should be able to get a win. It's been tough for them. They've had a lot of away games in a row, so really good to play a game against an evenly matched opposition, I think. And our third college in the region, Marlborough Boys College, they're hosting Christ College. So Marlborough Boys currently in 9th spot, Christ College in 8th. We've seen Christ College run around against Nelson. That will be a cracking game, again, very closely paired in on the competition ladder.
We wish them all the best of luck. The Stuff Tasman Trophy, and it's semi-final time, and you saw a couple of games last week.
Yeah, I went to Trafalgar Park. We live-streamed the Marist versus Wanderers game. So Wanderers were in 4th spot. Yes. Marist needed to beat them, to leapfrog over them, and have a couple of other results go their way. And Marist, of course, defending premiers, really wanted to be in the 4. And they were able to achieve that. They beat Wanderers by 33 points to 20. In a very good game of rugby, I must say, but Wanderers were just a little bit depleted, can I say, Chris? They've had a lot of injuries, and I just think finally, the length of the competition finally wore them down. But they are a gallant team, very well coached. But Marist got over the top of them, and then a result went their way. Stoke, who were in 5th spot, went over the hill to play Central, the leading team, and unfortunately came back home with a big loss, 85 points to 7.
Wow.
That's a tough one. That stings. Stoke had high ambitions this year, and then the other game was Kahurangi hosting Renwick, and so Kahurangi got up only by 11 points to 7, but they both stay in the same position on the ladder. So semi-final time in the Stuff Tasman Trophy, we've got Central hosting Marist at Lansdowne Park.
Yes.
And we've got Kahurangi playing Renwick again.
Right.
This time at Cook's Reserve Rewalker. So
you couldn't write this, could you?
No.
I mean, did they manipulate the draw? What was going on? Surely they set this up, but
for what? Because there's 2 Marlborough clubs and 2 Nelson clubs.
Right.
Yeah, it was very clever. But isn't it wonderful?
Yes.
This is the Stuff Tasman Trophy is our premier competition, and it is trans-regional, right?
Yes, it is.
And to have 2 clubs from Marlborough and 2 clubs from Nelson Bays in the semi-finals is awesome, and they don't get to meet each other right now.
Yeah.
It is 2 semi-finals of Marlborough v Nelson Bays. So, look, Central versus Marist, Kahurangi versus Renwick. Both games kicking off at 2:30 p.m. That's an earlier time, and both games being live streamed. So Renwick Facebook page, they will have the Kahurangi v Renwick semi-final, and the Tasman Community Rugby Facebook page, we will be live streaming from Lansdowne Park with the Central versus Marist match.
Fantastic. Look forward to that. It's going to be some exciting matches, and we'll be able to talk about the final next week. You're with the Mako Rugby Roundup, and it's time for our special guest. And it's a great pleasure to welcome to the show Mel Bosman. And as Mel Natai, she was Blackfern 119, playing 17 tests as prop. including the 2006 and 2010 Rugby World Cups.
Mel, I know you well. You're 5'5", so you must have been a bit of a mighty mouse when it came to propping a Blackfern scrum.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a nugget, Les. When you're smaller than most in your position, you've got to be very technically sound. So that was something I've very much worked on through my career.
Well, Mel Bosman has been the Mako FPC coach since 2020 and has just announced the 2022 FPC squad. And off the back of some spirited MBS Tasman Trophy matches, is it fair to say that your 2022 squad, Mel, is your fittest and best prepared yet?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely right there. It's been very encouraging seeing that. We had a trial last week to actually pick the team, and it was outstanding. It was such a level up from the club rugby that's played here in Tasman, and those girls were just fighting right to the death on the last minute. But that fitness level and that strength that's come through this year is a result of not so much from the coaching group cracking the whip in them, but it was more to do with the fact that we've had a bit of a cultural shift at the end of our last year's season. So what we did as coaches is we really sort of brought the players in and asked of them what they wanted from the rest of their time in this Mako jersey. And we're all sick of losing. It's not a nice space to be at the bottom of the table, and you've got to hold those players accountable for that space, right? There's only so much you can do as a coach, but those players really responded to it. They held the space well, and over the summer they've worked their butts off and started the Tasman Trophy club season just out the gate. Honestly, they were outstanding right from the start.
So what you're talking about actually is players self-driving themselves to improve rather than having the whip cracked for them. So I guess that would have a lot to do with your leadership group. You've got a new captain in Hannah Kelly and a couple of vice captains in Tamara Silcock and Sui Pararesa. So I guess the question is, what qualities do they bring to this team that is inspiring the younger ones?
Well, that word you've just used, Les, is the reason why they're in that role. Hannah Kelly and herself, she came back to Tasman after being away for a few years and, has really grown as a leader. She's just put her hand up and led the way by example. She empowers those younger girls to step up with her. She's very inspiring and encouraging. And when you're such a young side, like the average age of our team will be between sort of 20.5 actually years old. So we've got a very young side, and when you've got someone as encouraging as Hannah Kelly, you can only just go up from there, can't you? So
yeah. Well, that's a young team.
Yeah, it is a very young side, but she's flanked by two very experienced players. We've got our stalwart Tamara Silcock. She's the only Mako woman to have played in every single game in the jersey since we started in 2017. So she'll be getting her 30th cap this season. She's an absolute thoroughbred in the team. She's a ripe old age of 25, and she's absolutely just a go-getter, real thoroughbred horse that leads by example, and like Hannah's very encouraging. And then we've brought Sui Pararesa in from Canterbury. She was in our team last year and really epitomises that high performance on the field. And when you've got young side that aren't used to seeing that and the quality around Tasman, they just inspire. They just aspire to be like her. So and she, a mother of young females as well, young daughters. So she's just got that motherly instinct that really those younger players are just wanting.
Yeah, last year she was an absolute outstanding player for your team. A different level, as you say. She's played international rugby. She's played international league. She's played in Canterbury. She's now a Mako. A wonderful player, Mel.
Yes, she is. Wonderful person too. All three of those women are just wonderful characters. And just a damn good bugger, if you like. So you can't get any better than that.
An amazing fact that you are just one of two female head coaches in this year's FPC. So why do you think that is, and what do you think needs to change to get more female coaches in lead roles?
Well, that's a really good question. For me, here in Tasman, I've had a lot of support, especially from our current CEO, Lyndon Bray, and our past CEO, Tony Lewis, he was very integral in driving me in that space and literally holding me accountable from the start. You know, you want this in your career, well, then you go and get it and you show me what it looks like. So when you've got that and you've got that support from the union and your family, you know, you can only go up. But it's one of those things in coaching, and I've just come off a 2-year elite coaches scholarship called Te Hāpaitanga, which we sort of dive into this. Really, the bottom line is women won't go for a role unless they're 90% certain of the job itself. And men, on the other hand, would probably, if they knew half the job, then they would put their hand up for the role.
Right.
And that is a true fact, actually. So it's trying to break down those barriers and, you know, have that trust in yourself and your abilities to be able to put your hand up and go forward. But for me, I've had big mentorship around me, and it hasn't been easy. It absolutely hasn't been easy. But it's something that I choose to try and get better at each year. So, and I've got the backing of the union and the players and my management group to do so. So I'm quite happy in this space to keep challenging myself as long as the players are happy having me. So yeah.
Well, I'm pleased that Tasman again is being a trendsetter in having one of 2 female head coaches in the Whareparma Cup. So that's magnificent. But Mel, you've got clearly, if you've been doing these courses and getting yourself into coaching, you must have aspirations for the future.
Oh, absolutely, Les. I'm quite an ambitious woman. You know, I really had to do a career shift myself. I've only ever had 2 passions in life outside my family. One is rocks and the other one's rugby. So
rocks being geology, not rocks in your head, right?
Sometimes, depends how much sleep I've had. But yeah, no, I worked 15 years on oil rigs as a exploration geologist, and having a family and working in that field that don't go together. So I really sort of pushed early on in my playing career for my other passion, which was rugby. I knew my legs wouldn't last forever on the field, so I wanted to stay involved in any way possible, and coaching was something that came quite natural to me as a player. Being one of the leaders in the group, I was always sort of asked to run the set piece and run the attack plan and stuff like that. So it was natural progression for me to jump into coaching. But I'm somebody that won't stop until I get to where I want to be. And for me, I would love to be a part of the Black Ferns coaching group one day. But first, I think I need to travel overseas and try my hand at some international experience before I can come back and put my hand up with absolute confidence and say, hey, look at me, I'm a strong contender and I really want to push for that role.
Oh, good on you, Mel. That's awesome. Hey, talking of girl power, your support group is very good in that you've got a lot of females in support. You know, your manager, your physio, and a role that Rebecca Kirsten is playing for you. So a good group of young ladies behind you to mentor the players.
Absolutely. I had, one of the key markers this year, the key difference this year is we've got a strong manager, and that's Helen Leota. She actually, her and I have a history. We played the Auckland Storm together, FPC, back in the day, and she's also a Manusina player as well. So she's very much, she knows really well what our environment requires without me having to sort of guide her in that space. She understands it well. She understands the cultural differences we have in the team. She's of Polynesian background. We have a lot of young Polynesian players coming through. So, and she's a mum of young daughters as well. So she comes with huge strength on and off the field, and obviously she's doing her job perfectly when the head coach doesn't stress out. So, and we've got Tennille Wilson that's come into the fold this year. So she's been physiotherapist for Stoke men's prem team. So she's going to try her hand in this space, and so far she's just assimilated beautifully. It's been sublime. Haven't had to show her role or anything. And another one that sort of knows the drill, knows the role, and understands the values we have in high performance. And then, of course, we've got Rebecca Kirsten coming into the fold, and I created a role for her because Rebecca retired last year due to injury, and she's only young, and I really wanted to keep her involved because she has huge cultural strength and connection. I called them her superpowers as a human, and I really wanted her to be able to sort of still share that with the players, even though she was no longer a player. Hence, I've created a role as the cultural advisor and leadership for me. So she is my wingman in that space, and if I go to ground in the season getting too involved in game plan and what's going on the field, she'll be the one that will tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, we need to be focusing on this. So I very much value her and respect her as a person. So very lucky to have those three in the team, yes.
And then, last but not least, a grizzly man, Billy Guyton, who's a 52-game Mako halfback. He's going to assist you with the coaching. What's his role in the group?
Yes, Billy, we've been together for 3 years now in the coaching group. So he's been the assistant coach for 3 years now, and he's going to be our attack coach. So he comes with huge strength for me. He's his tactical knowledge is absolutely outstanding, and that comes with his years, obviously, as a player in the Mako, but also a Super Rugby player and a Māori All Black as well. So he's very inspirational to me in that space. You know, he has the strength that I might not necessarily have. So we've worked out over the 3 years together. We've ironed out each other's rough edges, and it's not always a smooth time in the season, in the FPC season, and I would expect that. You know, I don't expect things to be harmonious all the time. Otherwise, to me, it's like the head coach getting her own way all the time. So he does push me in that space to try new things, especially in the attack play. We've got a incredibly interesting game plan this year. It's very different. It's not played by anyone else, as I understand it. So the girls have bought into it, and it's exciting that we have Billy's capabilities on board to be able to have that confidence to, really drive that space and trust his own abilities to be able to drive that team to a new direction. And of course, he gets my full support. We're actually great mates off the field as well. So we make a good team. But he would say he was the tactical guru, and I would be the strategist. So together we complement each other really well.
Sounds like a good combination. Hey Mel, thank you very much for joining us on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to get insights leading into the FPC season, and what can we say? It's very, very exciting, and we wish you all the best. Thank you very much. There you go. That's Mel Bosman, who is the Mako FPC coach, and man, it's very exciting about what's coming up, and she sounds very, very switched on. Yeah,
a terrific woman, very, very intelligent. As a on and off the field type person. Look, this squad is very talented. It's got the right infrastructure or the support personnel behind it. I'm expecting genuine improvement. We've never had an easy road in Wharapama Cup because we just don't have a lot of talent in our region. A lot of people leave, they go off to tertiary education or go and get jobs out of the region. So it's hard to keep players, but the talent she's got, with the addition of just a couple of other players from Canterbury, this is a terrific side, and I wish them just the very best for an improved FPC campaign in 2022.
Mel Bosman, the Mako FPC coach. Let's talk All Blacks. Well, after much discussion about selections, and I must admit, after the first 20 minutes, I was thinking, you've got it wrong. And why is Barrett kicking it? What a great start by Ireland. It just shows they are a quality side, but well done to the All Blacks because they hung in there and then they just slowly wound themselves up, really, and just got really cranking in the next part of the game.
Yeah, so I think, Foster might have redeemed himself a little bit with his selection. But more importantly, the way the All Blacks played, it was genuine test match rugby, making sure you got on top in the forwards, and then Barrett, I thought, led the backs very well. He was very calm. Yeah. Very, very calm at 10. But it was the forward pack that laid the foundation for this win, and the three-lock strategy, right, of Barrett at 6 and Whitelock and Retallick, provided the grunt behind the front row that really was able to get a forward dominance. And then, of course, Sam Cane, the glue, and did the hard work in the dark spaces that allowed Ardi Savia to be Ardi Savia. Just a dynamic number 8, that man. So, look, it was a great performance, Chris, by the forwards. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought the first part they weren't getting to the breakdown quick enough, but then as opposed to perhaps previous years, they obviously talked about it and changed their game plan, or whatever they did, they improved it, and then the gap started opening up. The thing that I also was getting upset about was, say, Barrett might put it up in the air from our 22 and give it straight back to the Irish, and then and they scored off that. But in their defence, they changed that game plan. They were kicking for touch and they challenged the line out. So but all in all, you've got to give it a tick.
It was a conservative game plan, but it worked, and that's what Test match rugby is all about. So last year we saw a lot of helter-skelter, a lot of trialling different players in different positions. This year, with the World Cup just around the corner, I think they got back to the basics of true Test rugby, win the battle up front, play for field position and let the wonderful backs do their stuff. And talking of wonderful backs, Chris, how good was Lester Whanganuku on
he was
debut?
Great game.
Yeah, a bit of an error to start, but then he's a confident young man. And the run he did down the left flank that led to Geordie Barrett's try was second to none. He can be so proud, and he's been rewarded with a second test cap on the weekend.
Yeah. And let's talk about this weekend, because the lineup is pretty much the same. Yes. Which is interesting because of the sicknesses that they had, there were a few players that came into that side that potentially were fill-ins, but they've been rewarded after last week and they hold their positions.
Yeah, so only one change, with Scott Barrett moving into lock because of Sam Whitelock's concussion, and Dalton Papa'i going to number 6. And I welcome that because I want to see him with Kane and Savia as a back 3, because I'm a big fan of Dalton, as you know. I saw him in Christchurch and he won me over when the Blues beat the Crusaders. So it will be wonderful, but it's good again though that we are structured and settled in our selections, and only just a couple of changes in the reserves bench. Will Jordan coming back, which we Tasman Mako fans love to see. And also a debut, for Falau Fakatava at halfback. Everyone's wanting to see how he goes, but Finlay Christie, of course, didn't do too much wrong last week. And then a change. Finally, some fresh blood at prop. Aidan Ross coming in for a debut. So, again, settle side, the right tactics. I think that they should be too strong for Ireland.
Right, there you go. There's Les's prediction. I think we will get the win too, but I don't think it will be an easy match. I think Ireland will come back storming with nothing to lose. Tasman Mako update.
Yeah, so only 30 days to go before the first game in Blenheim against Southland on August 7. So just a whole lot of work being done behind the scenes now, as you could imagine, getting everything ready for a great match day experience. If you want to get along, the tickets are available. Go to our website, www.mako.nz, Chris. That's where all the information is. But we'll talk more about the Mako once we're a couple of episodes down the line. But I'm so excited about this upcoming NPC season.
Fantastic. And that's a wrap. My thanks to Mel Bosman, who is the Mako FPC coach. Fantastic interview with her. And of course you, Les, thanks again. It's a lot of fun and we love bringing you all the latest news on rugby in the top of the South. You can hear this podcast on talknelson.co.nz and on our Facebook page and on Fresh FM 9pm on Friday nights. And we'll speak to you again next week on the Mako Rugby Roundup. Have a great weekend.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. It's the talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio.